Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just need to check the old mic. Is it? Can you all hear me? Okay. If I speak like that. Lovely to see such a full audience. I hope it's a good thing, but we'll find out. But very nice to see that it's engaged you all. So, first of all, let me formally say, Mr. President, Lady Captain, and members of Ashridge. Thank you all very much for attending tonight's presentation on a dark winter's night in December. I hope everyone gains something from the evening, even if it is only to give you more confidence in the views that you already hold. I also hope that everyone has had a chance to read the briefing paper that was circulated last Friday, because you will then have a reasonable idea of what this evening holds. Most specifically, what we've been to stress throughout the last few weeks, that we are still at the stage where we want to hear your views. Both at this evening's consultation and in the days that follow, we want to hear what you, the members, think. We've deliberately not yet reached any resolutions as a committee. That will take place in the new year, and we will be influenced by your thinking. So we are here to listen and to answer questions, of course. So I now want to give you a feel for the framework of the evening. We've decided to split the evening into 3 roughly equal parts. This because we feel it will help separate some of the issues that need separating, as well as keeping closer control of the timings. I hope so anyway. Of these roughly equal parts, I will do the first. Ed Peel, our governance guru over there, will do the second. And then I will lead again on the third and final part. Each of the 3 parts is expected to take about half an hour, including an opportunity for you to make comments and ask questions after each section. There will then be a finger buffet immediately after consultation, when some committee members and members of the working party will be available to discuss matters that crop up during the meeting more informally. So the agenda for this evening. I'm going to start by considering the purpose of the review. Why have we undertaken all this work? Is it really necessary? I'll then run through an overview of what we currently have. That's the current structure and the current roles within that structure, including a couple of problem areas. As mentioned before, this first part, like all 3 parts, will end with a chance for you to make comments and ask questions. Then we'll be on to the second part, led by Ed Peel, which will focus on other related issues that have cropped up and been mentioned during our consultation with members. Things like compliance with the law, gender issues, section issues, transparency, and so on. Again, there will be ample opportunity for you to make comments and ask questions at the end of Ed's presentation. And this part of the evening, I must say, has the potential to be rather wide-ranging in content. So I'm going to be relying on Ed's expertise to keep everything on track. And then the closing straight, the third and final part, will be consideration of what we feel are the 3 main options for our structural framework at Ashridge going forward. Now, you should each have a notes sheet for your use. This piece of paper was on the chairs when you arrived. So you can capture your thoughts, or our thoughts, your thoughts, if you wish. It's a condensed version of the appendix to the briefing paper. And are we up with the slides there? Yeah. It's an appendix of the briefing paper, and I want to use this slide really as a glimpse of what I would describe as the end game for now. This is where we're going to reach. So basically, we feel that all of the many and varied options that have been put forward fall under one of 3 overarching options. Firstly, stay pretty much as we are, just tweaking the odd thing here and there to make us legally compliant and to make it work better. Secondly, to make substantial changes but retain everything within a single committee. And then thirdly, to split the committee into a two-tier structure with two, or perhaps more, distinct controlling groups. Usually one looking after strategic issues, finance, and the other after golf and social. Now the reason I've pulled up this last slide, you can see this later, this early, is to highlight that at this stage of the process, as I said before, this is the point we're heading for. Most of the rest of this evening's consultation is really to give you a good idea of the complexity beneath these three options and to help you determine which of them suits you best, rather than necessarily drilling down very far at this stage. Showing this slide should also give you a good feel for the framework of the evening, and that way, if you have a point you want to make or a question you want to ask, you may have a fair idea now of when is the best time to raise it. And I just want to make two more points before proceeding further. And the first is that the idea of this evening is to discuss constitutional issues rather than operational issues. Now, it's obviously unlikely that we're going to stop anyone from raising a matter that is of concern to them, whatever it's about. But it's just that we feel most of the non-governance issues, particularly the operational issues, will be better addressed at a later stage in the process. On the other hand, we acknowledge that the governance model you opt for is going to be the one that most reflects your vision of how the club should operate, and out of this should fall an operational process that you can trust. Ultimately, this is important, the governance framework should deliver you a system that deals with contentious issues both fairly and moderately. And that's the plan anyway. Anyway, the main point is if you can try to stick to constitutional matters, I think that will help to keep the evening on track. And my second point is about how fast we go. Not this evening, but next year. Just as with governance in general, we will be influenced by you. So we'd like to hear, either this evening or later, how quickly or slowly you think this process should go from now on. And we hope that you will take the opportunity to ask questions, but please understand that some of the detail regarding issues that have arisen from the view has not at this stage been fully considered. But your questions will help us to understand the direction you want us to take. Okay, so what is the purpose of the review and why did we embark on it? Changes to the structure of a club are complex and time-consuming and not to be undertaken lightly. In the past 15 years, we've made two changes of consequence. Firstly, the vote in 2002 to give ladies equal standing to men. And secondly, the relatively recent change when it was decided that the immediate past captain would no longer stay on the committee for a year after captaincy. Every now and again, it is worth assessing how well our systems are serving us, particularly as many other clubs have changed their structures in the past few years. So why have they done it? The truth is, we are no longer certain that our existing model is as good as it can be and are wondering if some other system might serve us better. The key question is, if there are problems now, is it going to get any worse over the next few years? Specifically, what should focus our minds is whether we are going to leave the club in the best possible shape for our centenary year 17 years from now. Now, there are some specific weak points with the current system, which I'm going to come on to in a minute or two. But first, let's just look at the structure that we currently have. So the club captain is also chairman of the committee. There are 8 other committee members, including the president. The captain and the vice captain serve 1 year in their roles. and each other role serves a maximum 3-year term. So it is possible for someone to serve 1, 2 or 3 years in a committee role before becoming vice captain. And the longest any member can serve on committee, if you total it all up, is 8 years. 3 years as a normal committee member, 1 as vice captain, 1 as captain, and then probably later, if asked, 3 as president. Now, there are, as you can see there on the right-hand side, 3 regular liaison groups working alongside the committee, which are set out on the screen. These groups are not formal constitutional parts of the club, but they are what we actually have in practice. They help to create a forum for discussion with certain committee members and key members of staff outside the main committee structure. Ideas are discussed in these meetings and recommendations are then made to the committee. By and large, these are small groups and neat structures with no great proliferation of subcommittees. It has always been the Ashridge way, and one of its great virtues is that the lines of responsibility are pretty clear. There are no overlaps, and there is little potential for tasks to be overlooked through falling through the cracks. Now, on a day-to-day basis, the reporting lines are very much a pyramid structure, with the captain leading the committee and taking ultimate responsibility for the club on behalf of the members. So I referred a minute or two ago to weak points in our current system. Now, I want to stress at the outset that most of us agree that we have a wonderful golf club with basically very sound values that by and large reflect the values of the members. These values, and indeed the whole structure, have served us very well over a very long period of time. But no system is perfect. All systems have some inherent weaknesses, and it is our duty to consider these from time to time and reflect whether anything different would serve us better going forward. Change is never easy, but sometimes it is necessary to move with the times. Consider these things. With longer-term projects, there can be a lack of continuity as captains change, coming in each year with a different way of working, different personality, different values, attitudes and intentions. This is not anybody's fault, but just think for a minute how difficult it must be for the general manager to adapt to these changing styles. Looking over at Nick at the moment. Nor does the system under which we operate lend itself easily to long-term planning. Scrutiny of longer-term projects is difficult when it is hard to pinpoint who is accountable for what. The same is true when it comes to appraising permanent staff. The annual change of captain/chairman, throws up many inconsistencies. That's the first thing. Secondly, the dual role of captain and chairman seems to be getting increasingly onerous. It's getting harder and harder to find people with the qualities and skills for both roles. That's both the running of the club and being the ambassador, playing the matches, attending the social functions and so on. Whilst it's a great honour to be asked to be captain, not that many are both able and prepared to take on the role. A third weakness, I would say, is that there are no designated roles related to skill sets, like finance, for example. In itself, this is not too serious because it is, of course, possible to identify members who have the necessary qualities and propose them for the committee. And this has been the way it has worked over the years. But it might make more sense to specify the role up front, identify potential candidates, and allow the members to elect them accordingly. This seems to be a more professional way of going about it. Fourthly, what I would describe as seeing the wood for the trees. The risk under the current system is that the committee may lose sight of the longer-term issues amidst all the day-to-day business. And finally, some members have mentioned that we could do with clarification of the key roles, particularly the captain and the general manager. This is true under any system, of course, and I only mention it because it has been mentioned by quite a few members and seems worthy of scrutiny. I think further detail on this is probably best left until another time, but if you do want to raise it now, we will be happy to discuss it this evening. And that is all I've prepared on the current structure. At this point, and before I ask Ed to talk about issues that have arisen from the review as we've been doing it, I would like to pause and invite members to comment or ask any questions on the current system.
I'm going to be whizzing around the room, so if anyone could just put their hand up if they have a question or comment, I will come and find them.
Sorry, it's very brief, but I had a feeling that Peter Noble in his year as captaincy did actually do very detailed job descriptions for captain, vice captain, president, and the general manager's service agreement deals with those issues as well. So there should be no queries about what their roles are.
I didn't mean to imply that there wasn't any lack of clarity within the committee or the people who are doing the job. It's more within the membership. A lot of them said that they failed to see where the distinctions lay and they wanted more clarity on the subject. And I think... I think so, yes. I don't think... I mean, the two roles, as you well know, Roger, are they overlap a lot in many respects and they cover a lot of the same ground, albeit with slightly different emphases. But I think the point was really one of the members raised the point, and I thought it was worth mentioning. Yeah.
It's just a brief point on the split of the captain, or the captain currently being the chairman, and the sort of ambassador and so on. And just from my own personal experience and actually seeing potential candidates come through, I think they are such different roles. I mean, you've got to be a fanatical golfer, great host and entertainer, wonderful raconteur, socialite, night owl, morning lark, football terms, chairman, CEO, team manager, centre forward and goalkeeper. And I think we've missed out on a lot of great talent, people who would otherwise maybe go on to do the business side of things that may have been uncomfortable with the golfing matters, and vice versa. And I think it's a very important consideration.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Can I just say a couple of words about the continuity issue that you raised? When we built Clubhouse, the committee appointed a project manager and on a permanent basis an accountant and an expert on that side of things, and the captain of the year attended the meetings and gave advice as the thing went along. But it was controlled by someone who was not a member of the committee, or a group who were not members of the committee, but reported to it. And I think the issue that's rising now, of course, is the car park. And the way I would suggest that it should be tackled is to do exactly the same thing. That is, get someone who really knows the business of building car parks, give him the support he needs to look after the financial aspects, and have him reporting to, or her I should say, to the committee as the thing progresses. But I really do think that you can ease that long-term problem. I'm not talking about long-term planning, but I'm talking about long-term projects.
Right. Well, thank you. Well, all I can say is it clearly worked extremely well with the building of the clubhouse. That, of course, was a very major project which demanded extra resources and a rethink and so on. But, well, thank you for your suggestion. The immediate query I would have, Michael, is how do you, under the current system, differentiate between those projects that need that sort of outside expertise that you're describing? You know, how important do they need to be? Because we do many things during the course of a year that require planning and are sort of semi-long-term projects, and just wondering where one draws the line. That's just a thought.
The answer to that is, how long is the project going to take?
Right.
It's purely the time it's going to take, so that it has consistent management all the way through. It doesn't matter whether it's a big project or a little project, but that's what you need.
Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Captain, just briefly, looking at page 3 of the very helpful consultation paper. I'll try without. Looking at page 3 of your. Captain, looking at page 3, you've highlighted consistency of chairing and the onerous burden of being captain and chairman, but you haven't mentioned transparency. And whichever format of governance we adopt, I'd just like to put down a marker that certainly this paper was a wake-up call to me as to the certain things that I've just been happily chuntering along with and taking for granted. And unless you come to the AGM and read what is always a very full and helpful annual report by the captain of the day, you really don't know what is going on in the background month to month and project to project. And I think some format for circulating minutes and keeping members more regularly informed on a regular basis is something that we should build into our form of governance, whatever that ends up as being. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, there is a paragraph on transparency, I think, John.
Yes.
Hmm?
You didn't mention it. That was the only point.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry.
You weren't
I
transparent.
did.
And you were transparent.
I'm sorry. I missed the point. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions on the current structure? There's obviously lots of other things to discuss, so unless there are, we can swiftly move on and go on to the second part, which Ed is going to lead.